this is Frode and welcome back to Actualize Notes TV. Today you'll learn how to become more original. And who doesn't want to become more original? I mean, come on! And today's big ideas, as you'd expect, comes from the great book Originals by Adam Grant. Originals, subtitle, How Nonconformists Move the World. Adam Grant is just a truly extraordinary person. He has been rated as Wharton's top-rated teacher for 4 straight years in a row, and one of the top business professors in the world under 40. He has spoken for and consulted clients like Google, Disney Pixar, the US Army, and he is the best-selling author of the book Give and Take. And in this book, he'll help us learn, as the subtitle suggests, how nonconformists move the world and how we ourselves can become more nonconformist. In other words, originals. It's a quick, thorough and easy read that I recommend to anyone who wants to make their mark in the world. It's truly one of my favorites out of all of the books I've read. So let's get started with our first big idea, originals. Adam says that there are 2 pathways to achievement. The first one is conformity, which basically means taking the conventional paths and maintaining the status quo, doing what everyone else does. And the other path is non-conformity. In other words, originals. I can't remember if he called it non-conformity or not, but it's originals. And the original, he takes the road less traveled and fights for a cause that he believes to be truly important and for the greatest service to the world. And Adam stresses the point that nothing is really original because we are all influenced, and our ideas are influenced by what we learned from the people and the world around us. So, having addressed that, originality starts with creativity. Because you need to have an idea that's both novel, meaning it's new and different, and useful to people. But it doesn't stop there. You also need to have the initiative to take action and make those visions a reality, make those ideas a reality. So therefore, action is a key point in being an original. How are you doing on this? Do you have a novel and useful idea? All I can say is start taking action. We'll talk more about this in the 4th big idea. Really fascinating stuff. Our 2nd big idea is defaults. So Adam talks about how the economist Michael Haussmann wanted to find out why some customer service agents stayed in their jobs longer than others. And at first he thought that people who had a history of job hopping would quit sooner than other people. But this turns out to be false. And he got his hands on some information which told him about which web browser, the customer service agents used when they applied for their jobs. And even though he thought that the web browser was just a matter of taste, he tested this on whether their web browser affected how long they stayed in their jobs. And what he found out was just astonishing. Those who used Firefox or Chrome stayed in their jobs for 15% longer than those who used Internet Explorer or Safari. And to test if this was just a coincidence or not, he also tested this on absence and performance. And the results were the same. People who used Firefox or Chrome had less absence and better performance than those who used Internet Explorer or Safari. But it's not the browsers in themselves that made these differences. It was rather what it signalized about their habits. Because if you think about it, if you have a PC, Internet Explorer came built into the Windows. If you have a Mac, Safari came pre-installed in the computer. And what two-thirds of the customer service agents did was that they accepted the default browser without questioning whether there was a better option available. Whereas if you want Chrome or Firefox, you have to have some resourcefulness and take the initiative to seek out a better option, which is of course downloading the programs Chrome or Firefox. And this gives a small but important window into what you do in your life and work in general. And Adam says we live in a he says we live in an Internet Explorer world. We're just, most of us are just accepting the defaults in all areas of our lives and just going through the motions. But he says that it's really important to seek a better option. Originals do this, and therefore we have to question the default. And that's a central part of the next big idea, Vujade. Adam says that questioning the default and seeking a better option is really at the hallmark of originality. And after a decade studying this, he says that it's much easier than you'd expect. It all starts with curiosity. Curiosity about why the default exists in the first place. And we are driven to question this default when we experience something he calls vujade. Vujade is the opposite of déjà vu. Whereas you experience déjà vu when you encounter something new, but you feel like you've seen it before. When you experience vujade, you see an old problem, but with a fresh perspective. You see something that's familiar, but you see it in a slightly different way, which gives you new insights into old problems. And in his book Iconoclast, Gregory Burns says that this is really a matter of how you perceive the world. And if you want to think differently, you need to bombard your mind with new stimuli. Of course, we're not talking about push notifications, which is really bad for your mind and concentration. We're talking about reading deeply and widely in important subjects, experiencing new cultures, traveling to different countries, meeting new people. In essence, having new experiences. If you do this, this helps you have more of vujade, see old problems with new eyes. Alright, and it's of course a central facet of being an original. And our fourth big idea is volume. This is one of those I love the most. Those types of ideas I love the most. Ira Glass, who is the producer of This American Life and the podcast Serial, says that if you want to be an original, you have to. The most important thing possible you could possibly do is to do a lot of work, do a huge volume of work. And this is really an idea that keeps recurring again and again throughout the various books I read on creativity, originality, iconoclasm, productivity, etc. If you want to do something extraordinary, you have to produce a ton of work. Some examples of this are Mozart, Beethoven, and Bach. Mozart created over 600 musical pieces throughout his short life of 35 years. Beethoven, it was Mozart first, and Beethoven produced 650 in his lifetime, and Bach wrote over 1,000. And Adam says that the problem which stops most people from being an original is that they just generate a few ideas and do a small amount of work and try to achieve it to perfection. They obsess over making it perfect. A practical example of this is that I might spend days and weeks on creating one of these videos instead of using 3 hours, which I usually do. Of course, the quality would increase in these single videos that I make in a few days or a few weeks, but my goal is really to produce a ton of content, connect as many ideas as possible, and really get it thoroughly in. And of course, we need to distinguish between perfectionism and good enough. What we want to aim at, if we want to be original, is good enough and produce a ton of work. Alright, that's volume. And our fifth big idea is role models. Adam talks about how two psychologists wanted to, they performed an experiment. So they had this group of students list their goals that they wanted to achieve over a decade. And they were perfectly ordinary goals that you'd expect. But another group of students were told to first read an article about an outstanding peer and then write down their goals. The result? They achieved a lot higher. Having role models increased their aspirations. And in his book, The Talent Code, Daniel Coyle talks about this as in the idea windshield. And he says that we all have a windshield in front of us of the people we really admire. And if we want to ignite our motivation, then we need to keep vivid images of our role models in front of us. Vivid images of our future selves, in other words. And stare at them every day. And therefore, in this context, I have a little prop for you today. I actually created a vision board a few days ago of my favorite teachers, favorite quotes, some of my main goals, etc. And the last few days have just been extraordinary. It's much easier to continue doing my work, even though it's a bit hard at times, since I have a lot more motivation when I can see the direct people that I want to emulate. So think about this right now. Who are your role models? And how can you watch some videos or watch some pictures of them each day to know what it is that you're trying to do and who it is you are aspiring to be? And of course, when I go back to originality, if you want to be an original, then you must first be willing to be unoriginal. Learn and absorb as many skills and knowledge as possible from those you admire, so that you then can strike out on your own. So that's role model. Be clear over whose yours are. Produce a ton of work. Don't obsess about perfection. Just good enough, and learn a little bit more each and every time. See how people are receiving your work and adopting it. Usually, see familiar things with new eyes. Look at all problems and find new insights into solving them by bombarding your mind with new stimuli, like reading widely, exploring new countries, cultures, and people. Defaults. Are you accepting the defaults in your own life? Are you using Internet Explorer or Safari? Well, I won't tell you to stop you doing that, but just be aware. Are you accepting the defaults? We want to start questioning the defaults and seek better options. And of course, originals. Conformists are going down the conventional paths and maintaining the status quo. Originals are going down the road less traveled and are fighting for a cause they believe is for the greatest good. Alright, that's a quick look at originals. Thank you, Adam Grant. Think about the idea that jumped out at you. And I would love to hear how you're going to embody it in your life starting today if you comment it in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Have another awesome day. See ya.